Imagine walking through ghost towns frozen in time, where sand fills once grand homes or smoke rises from the ground of a forgotten city. From eerie islands to villages left after disasters, these abandoned places tell stories of life lost and mystery waiting to be explored. Let's uncover them together. Let's start with Pripyat, a city that looks frozen in time. It's located in Ukraine and was abandoned in 1986 after the Chernobyl nuclear disaster. Can you imagine? One day, people were living their lives, and the next, they had to leave everything behind because of the dangerous radiation. Today, Pripyat is a ghost town. You can still see schools with books left on desks, toys in children's rooms, and even an unused Ferris wheel standing in an empty amusement park. The eerie thing about Pripyat is how everything was just left as it was. Before the disaster, it was lively with parks, schools, and tall buildings. Now, it's quiet, with nature slowly taking over. The government doesn't let people live there anymore, but you can visit for short tours with guides. Walking through Pripyat feels like stepping into a beautiful and terrifying past. Pripyat's stillness is haunting, but let's now travel to an abandoned island in Japan, where the buildings tell their own story. Next, we visit Hashima Island in Japan, also known as Battleship Island, because it looks like a battleship from a distance. This island was once full of life, with coal miners and their families living in tall apartment buildings. But in 1974, when the coal ran out, everyone left. The entire island was abandoned almost overnight. It's filled with crumbling buildings, empty streets, and a strange silence. Hashima Island has an eerie feel because it's so isolated and surrounded by the sea. Before it was abandoned, it had schools, shops, and homes. The buildings are falling apart and plants are growing through the cracks. The island even appeared in the James Bond movie Skyfall, which shows how spooky and dramatic it looks. The government has opened parts of it to tourists, but many areas are too dangerous. It's where you can feel the weight of history and abandonment. From the quiet island of Hashima, we now travel to the Wild West. Let's head to Bodie, California, where gold once ruled the town. Bodie, California was once a gold mining town that boomed in the late 1800s. Imagine the hustle and bustle, miners searching for gold, saloons filled with people, and streets full of activity. But by the early 1900s, the gold ran out and people started leaving. Today, Bodie is a ghost town frozen in time. You can still walk through the old wooden buildings, see the school, and even peek into the saloons where miners once gathered after a long day. What makes Bodie eerie is how well preserved it is. It looks like the people just vanished, leaving behind a town waiting for them to return. Dust covers everything, and the silence is almost spooky. Bodie is now a state park, and visitors can explore the town and see what life was like during the gold rush. It's a place where history feels alive, even though the town itself is long dead. From the wild gold rush town of Bodie, let's now move to the sea, where strange steel towers rise from the water. Welcome to the Monsell Sea Forts. The Monsell Sea Forts are unlike anything you've seen before. These strange metal towers stand in the sea, far from the UK's coastline. They were built during World War II to defend the country from German planes, but after the war, they were abandoned. These forts are rusty, empty, and slowly decaying as the sea reclaims them. What makes the Monsell forts eerie is their isolation. With their tall steel legs rising from the water, they look like something out of a science fiction movie. Before they were abandoned, soldiers lived here, protecting the UK. Today, they are quiet and forgotten, standing alone in the ocean. Some people want to turn them into tourist spots, but they remain strange and mysterious structures in the sea, untouched by time. From the sea forts, we now travel to Mexico, where a volcanic eruption buried a village, San Juan Parangaricutiro. San Juan Parangaricutiro was once a small village in Mexico, but in 1943, something incredible happened. The Paricutin volcano erupted and covered the entire village in lava. The only thing that survived was the church, standing in the middle of a black sea of hardened lava. It's beautiful and eerie, a symbol of survival in the face of disaster. Before the eruption, San Juan Parangaricutiro was a peaceful village with homes, farms, and schools. Now, the church stands alone, surrounded by nothing but rock. The place feels quiet and empty, with the lava making it look like the world's end. People visit to see the church, which serves as a reminder of the once established village. It's a hauntingly beautiful place that shows the power of nature and the strength of human-made structures. Next, we head to Varosha, Cyprus, once a luxurious tourist destination, now left in ruins. Varosha, located in Cyprus, was once a glamorous beach resort. Tourists from all over the world come to enjoy the luxury hotels and sunny beaches. But in 1974, everything changed during the Turkish invasion of Cyprus. The people fled, leaving the town suddenly abandoned. Now, Varosha is a ghost town with crumbling hotels and deserted beaches. The streets are blocked off and the buildings are falling apart. Before the war, Varosha was a bustling tourist destination. Today, it's silent, with nature slowly taking over. The once beautiful beaches are empty, and plants grow through the cracks in the buildings. The government keeps Varosha closed, and no one is allowed to live there. It's a sad and eerie place, a reminder of what was lost and never recovered. Next, we travel to Oradour-sur-Glane, France, a village frozen in time after a terrible tragedy. Oradour-sur-Glane is a village in France destroyed during World War II in 1944. On that fateful day, German soldiers killed hundreds of people in the village and burned it to the ground. After the war, the village was left untouched as a memorial to those who lost their lives. Today, Oradour-sur-Glane stands as a ghost village frozen in time. You can still see cars rusting in the streets, houses with broken windows, and personal belongings left behind. What makes Oradour-sur-Glane so eerie is that the village is waiting for its people to return, but they never will. The government decided to leave the village as it was to remind people of the horrors of war. Walking through the silent streets is a powerful and emotional experience. It's filled with history, tragedy, and a deep loss. After the tragic story of Oradour-sur-Glane, we now move to the scorching Namib Desert, where a once rich diamond town has been swallowed by sand. Welcome to Kolmanskop, Namibia. Kolmanskop is an abandoned town in Namibia's Namib Desert. It was once a wealthy diamond mining town in the early 1900s, full of grand homes, hospitals, and even a ballroom. People flocked here during the diamond rush, and the town was thriving. But after the diamonds ran out, the people left, and by the 1950s, Kolmanskop was completely abandoned. Today, the desert slowly takes over the town, filling the empty buildings with sand. What makes Kolmanskop so eerie is that it looks like a town swallowed by the desert. The once beautiful houses are filled with sand, and the wind howls through the empty windows. Before it was abandoned, Kolmanskop had everything: schools, theatres, and luxurious homes. Now, it's just a quiet, sandy ghost town. The government has turned it into a tourist attraction, where visitors can walk through the sand-filled buildings and imagine life during the diamond boom. From the sandy ghost town of Kolmanskop, we now head to the United States to visit another abandoned place with a dark past, Centralia, Pennsylvania. Centralia was once a small mining town in Pennsylvania. Still, it is almost completely abandoned because of an underground coal fire that has been burning for over 50 years. It all started in 1962 when a fire ignited in a coal mine beneath the town. The fire spread underground, and toxic gases and dangerous sinkholes made the town unlivable. Over time, most of the residents left, and by the 1980s, the government ordered the town to be evacuated. Centralia is nearly empty today, with only a handful of people still living there. The streets are cracked and smoke-covered, and many buildings have been demolished. Before the fire, Centralia was a quiet mining town with schools, churches, and homes. Now, it's an eerie, smoking wasteland. The fire is still burning underground, and it's expected to continue for many more years.